Let's clarify this from the start. Socialism itself is not a mistake. More than that, socialism is the logical next stage after capitalism. Socialism didn't come from compassion, and it didn't come from morality. It emerged as an attempt to break hereditary selection. Its core idea was correct. Ability matters more than origin. The problem was elsewhere. Socialism didn't understand what abilities actually are at the biological level. It tried to measure them through ideology, loyalty, behavior, declarations. But those aren't abilities. Those are masks. Socialism aimed for equality. But equality of conditions is not the same as equality of brains. And that's exactly where the system started to break. Capitalism is a system of growth, accumulation, and selection by wallet. It works well at the beginning, when you need to rapidly scale production and technology. But it has a ceiling, and we've already hit it. Today, capitalism isn't developing, it's degenerating. It no longer selects for efficiency or thinking. It selects for ownership. It rewards not intelligence or the ability to create, but access to resources, loyalty to the system, and inherited positions. Money stopped being the result. It became the entry ticket. Access to education goes through your wallet. Access to power goes through origin. Access to the future goes through connections. That means selection is no longer based on the brain, but on birth. A system like that doesn't strengthen intelligence. It suppresses it, because intelligence is dangerous to stable hierarchies. The ending is always the same: impoverishment of the population, destruction of the middle class, total control, scores, algorithms, digital caste systems, a global concentration camp without barbed wire, where behavior is regulated by numbers and the majority of people are reduced to manageable biomass. Socialism didn't collapse because the idea was wrong. It collapsed because it was implemented without understanding the biology of the brain. The core mistake of past socialism was the ban on real brain research. The complete ignorance of how societies self-organize based on the structure of the human nervous system. And now comes the key thesis, the one that gives every ideologue instant heartburn. Individual variability of the brain outweighs any racial, ethnic, or social differences. People are not equal in brain structure. They never were, and they never will be. But, and this is critical, this is not a justification for elites, races, classes, or inherited privilege. It means something else entirely. Selection must not be based on origin, money, or loyalty, but on objective neurobiological characteristics. That's the key point almost no one understands. The moment socialism came close to real brain research, the moment it approached objective measurement, bans appeared, taboos, fear. Why? Because the brain is objective, measurable, independent of ideology. And that is lethal to any form of power. So the result was predictable. Research was shut down, objective criteria were replaced with correctness, and socialism lost, not ideologically, but technically. Why does equality without accounting for the brain lead to dictatorship? Because the moment a society declares everyone is equal in ability, it is forced to ban differences. And once differences are banned, there's only one tool left: control, unification, suppression. That's how dictatorship is born. Here's the paradox. The louder equality is proclaimed, the harder reality has to be crushed. Reality doesn't care about slogans. Brains are different anyway. And if you refuse to acknowledge that difference, you don't eliminate it, you just start policing it. That's why dictatorship kept emerging after socialism. Not because people were evil, but because the biology of the brain was ignored. Past socialism tried to select by ideology. Capitalism selects by money. Both are dead ends. The next step is selection by the brain, not in some mystical sense, not by talent, charisma, or success stories, but by real, measurable parameters of brain structure and function. And yes, that's scary, because the moment this happens, everything people cling to collapses. Hereditary elites fall apart. Wallets stop mattering, loyalty becomes useless, and the option to just slip through disappears. That's why this idea triggers panic. But here's the hard truth. The only real chance humanity has right now is not to bury socialism, but to fix it. What does this mean in practice? Full legalization and active development of living brain research. No taboos, no ideology, no ethics for idiots that exist only to block progress. It means understanding how societies self-organize based on neurobiology, different brain types, different roles, different levels of responsibility. It means a global neurosorting program, not for repression, not for castes, but for correct distribution of functions inside society. In real terms, it comes down to something very simple. Not everyone should govern. Not everyone should make decisions. Not everyone should define the future. Those who can think should think. Those who can manage should manage. Those who can't should not imitate. This isn't cruelty. It's the only way to avoid either global extinction or total algorithmic control. Neurosorting sounds scary only to people who are used to hiding behind abstractions. So, to fix the situation, 3 things are required. First, full legalization of living brain research, without religious, ideological, or moral hysteria. Second, a model of society based on brain self-organization, not on abstract rights, invented for the convenience of power. Third, a global neurosorting program, with transparent criteria, measurable parameters, and functional role assignment. But there's one crucial point. Everyone must operate at their own level of complexity. This is not discrimination, it's specialization, the same logic as in a living organism. The liver doesn't run the body, muscles don't think, neurons don't digest food, but together, the system works. Socialism was the first attempt, and it almost worked, but it didn't have the tools. Today, those tools are finally emerging, and now the question is no longer whether we like this idea or not. The real question is different. Do we want to survive as a species, or keep going extinct, repeating the same mistakes over and over again? If we don't introduce objective brain-based selection, one of 2 things will happen. Either we get a digital concentration camp of capitalism, social credit scores, behavioral control, algorithmic obedience, a hereditary elite at the top, and biomass on the bottom. Or we get yet another version of pseudo-socialism, slogans, ideology, moral theater, and managerial collapse all over again. There is no third option. The socialism of the future is not ideological. It is technical, built on brain biology, objective measurements, and an understanding of individual variability. Everything else is a guaranteed path to human extinction.